Daf Yomi Tractate, Bava Metzia, page 53b. With the top of the page with the words Afilu b'Yerushalayim. Even in Jerusalem, although ritually pure, second tithe cannot be desacralized in Jerusalem, as it is stated, for you are unable to carry it, and you shall turn it into money, and bind up the money in your hand, Deuteronomy 14:24-25. And se'et means nothing other than eating, as it is stated, and he took portions from before him, Genesis 43:34. Since ritually impure second tithe produce may not be consumed, Rabbi Elazar holds that one may desacralize it even if it had been brought into Jerusalem. Rather, the halacha of the Braita is taught not with regard to second tithe produce, but with regard to food acquired with second tithe money, which cannot be desacralized. The Gemara asks, with regard to food acquired with second tithe money, too, let him redeem it, as we learned in the Mishnah, Maser Sheni 3:10. Food acquired with second tithe money that became ritually impure should be redeemed. The Gemara answers, the Braita is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, who says, food acquired with second tithe money that became ritually impure must be buried and may not be redeemed. The Gemara asks, if the Braita is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, why did the Tana teach specifically a case where the food exited Jerusalem? Even if it did not exit Jerusalem, that halacha also applies, as he holds that once the food becomes ritually impure, it must be buried. Rather, actually, it is taught in the Braita with regard to second tithe that is ritually pure. And what is the meaning of exited? Is it not that the produce actually exited Jerusalem? Rather, the Braita is discussing a case where the partitions, meaning the walls, surrounding the city fell. The legal status of that second tithe produce is that of produce that exited the city. The Gemara asks, but doesn't Rava say the halacha that a partition enables one to eat second tithe produce is by Torah law, and the halacha with regard to the capability of partitions of the city to gather second tithe produce into the city is by rabbinic law, and when the sages issued a decree that partitions gather second tithe produce in terms of their being considered within the city, they did so only where there are intact partitions, but where there are no intact partitions, the sages did not issue a decree. The Gemara answers, once they issued a decree, the sages did not distinguish between cases where there are intact partitions and cases where there are not intact partitions. Once the sages issued the decree with regard to partitions and the produce being gathered, they applied it globally. This is one manner of explaining the Braita. Rav Huna bar Yehuda said that Rav Sheshet said, the Tana of the Braita is teaching one halacha. It is with regard to second tithe produce that is not worth even one pruta, and with which both entered Jerusalem and then exited it. It cannot be redeemed because it is worth less than one pruta. The Gemara asks, why? And let him bring it back into Jerusalem and partake of it there. The Gemara answers, it is a case where the partitions surrounding the city fell. The Gemara asks, and let him redeem the second tithe produce, as doesn't Rava say, the halacha that a partition enables one to eat second tithe produce is by Torah law? And the halacha is with regard to the capability of partitions of the city to gather second tithe produce into the city is by rabbinic law, and when the sages issued a decree that partitions gather second tithe produce in terms of their being considered within the city, they did so only where they are intact partitions, but where there are no intact partitions, the sages did not issue a decree. The Gemara answers, the sages did not distinguish between cases where there are intact partitions and cases where there are not intact partitions. Okay, I think we'll do a part 2 over here. '53 part 2 coming up. Shabbat Chazol. Shabbat Chazol. My name is Moshe Ibu. Shabbat Chazol. Nobody watched this far, I guarantee you. Nobody was going to watch this far. If you did, please comment, like, and subscribe. Smash that like button. Smash it. Smash it.